They said breaking both her legs would end her career. They were right about the breaking, wrong about the ending. The supply depot at Coronado Naval Base sat in shadow at 2200 hours. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting hard angles across stacked equipment crates and steel shelving units. The air smelled of gun oil and concrete dust. Lieutenant Commander Maya Brennan stood alone near the back wall, clipboard in hand, running final inventory checks on rappelling gear that should have been secured 3 hours ago. She moved methodically, checked the carabiner gates, test the rope tension, mark the sheet. Her boots made soft sounds against the concrete floor, deliberate, unhurried. At 38, after 10 years with DevGru, she'd learned that attention to small details kept operators alive. Tonight, someone had been careless. Loose equipment meant dead teammates. Footsteps echoed from the far entrance. Not the cautious steps of night security, heavy, confident, multiple sets. Maya didn't look up. She finished marking the clipboard, set it on the nearest crate, and straightened. Her hand moved to her belt, fingers brushing the worn handle of her Benchmade infidel knife. A gift from her mentor. 6 months in the ground now, but his lessons remained. Working late, Lieutenant Commander. The voice came from behind the shelving unit. Petty Officer Garrett Voss stepped into the light. 32 years old, blonde hair regulation short, jaw set in that particular expression Maya had seen before. Pride mixed with rage, a dangerous combination. 3 others materialized behind him. Marcus Thorne, Cole Merrick, Travis Strand, all from the same barracks row, all wearing the same look. Maya turned slowly, keeping her spine straight. Securing what you left unsecured, Petty Officer. Standard procedure. Voss took another step forward. Funny how you always find things to criticize. Funny how you keep giving me material. The space between the armory wall and the supply racks was a blind spot. No cameras, no witnesses. She'd checked earlier, out of habit. Now that habit felt like prophecy. You embarrassed us, Lieutenant. Voss's voice dropped lower. Made us look like amateurs in front of the entire compound. Then stop performing like amateurs. It should have ended there. A warning, an insult, another line drawn in dirt that grown men knew not to cross. But pride is a weapon in the wrong hands. Voss lunged. Maya pivoted left, muscle memory from 1,000 training sessions firing faster than thought. Her hand caught his forearm, fingers finding the pressure point at his wrist. She used his momentum against him, a basic Krav Maga technique, throwing him sideways into the metal shelving. The impact rang out like a bell. Gear clattered to the floor. It would have ended there too. Except Cole Merrick came next. He was heavier, slower, but he had reach. His arms wrapped around her from behind, pinning her shoulders. Maya drove her head backward, fast and sharp. The reverse headbutt caught him square on the nose. Cartilage crunched. His grip loosened. She spun free, breath controlled, hands up, ready. Travis Strand hit her from the side. A tackle, low and brutal. They went down together, her shoulder slamming against the concrete lip of the equipment rack. Pain flared white-hot down her arm. She twisted, trying to regain position, but Strand's weight pinned her. Then Garrett Voss recovered. He stood over her, breathing hard, a thin line of blood running from where his temple had hit the shelf. His eyes had changed. The rage wasn't cold anymore. It was burning. Hold her. Hands clamped on her arms, on her shoulders, pulling her flat against the floor. She fought, silent, efficient, every technique she knew. But 3 grown men, all SEAL qualified, all angry, all coordinated. The math didn't work. Voss looked down at her. You think speed makes you a SEAL? He raised his boot. You think breaking records makes you one of us? The boot came down on her right knee. The sound wasn't loud, a wet crack like green wood snapping, but it echoed in Maya's skull, louder than gunfire. Pain radiated upward, sharp and dizzying, turning her vision white at the edges. The lateral tibial plateau, Her mind cataloged automatically. 8 millimeters displaced, maybe more. She didn't scream, didn't give them that. Voss's boot lifted again. Now try running your mouth. The second stomp hit her left knee. Medial tibial fracture, 6 millimeters. The pain doubled, compounded, became something impossible to ignore. Her body wanted to curl inward to protect itself. She forced it still. Through the haze, she stared past them. Not at Voss, through him. Her expression stayed blank, empty of everything except calculation. Voss stepped back first. His breathing was ragged. No report, no shame. Understood? Maya didn't answer. She just kept staring, memorizing every detail. The way Merrick's hands shook, the way Strand looked away, the way Marcus Thorne stood furthest back, his face pale. I said, understood? Tactical error, petty officer. Her voice came out steady, calm, like she was commenting on a training drill. Voss frowned. What? You made a tactical error. The hell are you talking about? Maya's eyes shifted, just slightly, to her cargo pocket. The faint red glow of her phone's recording light was visible through the fabric. She'd activated it the moment she heard multiple footsteps approaching. Voss followed her gaze. His face went white. He lunged for the phone, ripping it from her pocket. The screen showed 2 minutes, 43 seconds of recording time. 2 minutes, 43 seconds of audio and video evidence. He smashed it against the concrete. Once, twice, 3 times. The screen shattered. The case cracked. The recording light died. Maya watched him destroy it. Then she smiled. Not wide, just a slight curve at the corner of her mouth. That was sinking to cloud for 2 minutes, petty officer. Everything's already uploaded. The words hit Voss like a physical blow. His face went from white to red, rage and fear mixing into something worse. You're bluffing. Am I? For 3 seconds, nobody moved. The 4 men stood frozen, trapped between violence already committed and consequences not yet arrived. Then Voss turned. Move, now. They fled, boots pounding across concrete, the depot door slamming, then silence. Maya lay on the cold floor for 10 seconds, 20, breathing slow and controlled despite the pain screaming through both legs. Her hands were shaking now, adrenaline flooding her system with nowhere to go. She started to crawl. Every inch was agony. The broken bones ground against each other with each movement. Sweat broke across her forehead. Her vision tunneled, but she kept moving, dragging herself forward with her arms, leaving a thin trail of blood behind her. Not from her legs, from her palms, torn open on the rough concrete. The equipment cage was 15 feet away. Might as well have been 15 miles. She reached it after 3 minutes that felt like 3 hours. The cage door required a key code. Her fingers trembled as she punched in the numbers. The lock clicked open. She pulled herself inside, reached up to the 3rd shelf, found the locked drawer that only she had access to. Inside was another phone. She'd placed it there 4 days ago, after finding the loosened bolts on her rappelling harness. After discovering hydraulic fluid drained from training equipment she was scheduled to use. After Marcus Thorne's anonymous note had appeared under her barracks door. They're planning something. Maya had known violence was coming. She just hadn't known when. This phone had been recording audio through a hidden microphone she'd planted near the depot entrance. It had captured everything, every word, every sound, every moment. She pulled up the cloud backup. 2 files. Her pocket phone's video, synced successfully before Voss destroyed it. And this phone's audio recording, crystal clear, time-stamped, irrefutable. Maya stared at the evidence for a long moment. Then she opened her contacts, scrolled to one name, Commander Dalton Westfield. The phone rang 3 times before he answered. His voice was rough with sleep. Brennan? It's 22:30 hours. This better be... Commander, I need 7 days. Silence on the other end. Then, more alert. Maya, what happened? I need 7 days and access to Reflex Bay 3. Off hours, no logs, no questions. Are you injured? Yes. How bad? Bad enough that everyone will think I'm done. Another pause. Longer this time. When Westfield spoke again, his voice had changed. What did they do? Nothing I can't adapt to. Do I have your authorization? She could hear him thinking, weighing, calculating. Commander Dalton Westfield was 55 years old, a veteran of Gulf War operations, a man who'd seen enough combat to know the difference between a broken operator and one who'd simply been broken down to rebuild stronger. You have 7 days, he said finally. But Maya, if this goes sideways, it won't. She ended the call. For another moment, Maya sat in the equipment cage, back against the cold metal, both legs stretched out in front of her. The pain had evolved now, from sharp and immediate to a deep, grinding throb that promised to get worse before it got better. She looked down at her ruined knees, already swelling, already discoloring. Then she smiled again. Not the small smile she'd given Voss, a real one, because they'd made a mistake. They'd left her conscious, they'd left her capable, and most importantly, they'd left her angry. The air at 0430 hours clung to skin like sweat that hadn't formed yet. Humid, heavy, dark enough that the floodlights over Coronado's training field cast long shadows that looked sharper than they were. Boots hit gravel in uneven rhythm. Breath fogged and vanished. 30 SEAL candidates stood at parade rest near the endurance lanes, some bouncing on their toes, some still shaking off sleep. All waiting. Lieutenant Commander Maya Brennan didn't bounce. She stood at the head of formation, arms behind her back, posture straight but not stiff. Her uniform was plain, no decorations showing. Her frame was lean, compact, 5'7", 145 pounds. Not the kind of build that screamed power, just economy of motion. Auburn hair pulled tight in a regulation bun. Green eyes that didn't miss details. A face that gave nothing away. It was her first official day back in the field. Not logistics, not recon analysis, not desk work. Mobility, instruction. A reassignment that had raised eyebrows across the compound. She's recon, not combat. Probably hasn't done a full pack run since BUD/S. I give her 3 days before she's back behind a desk. Maya didn't respond to the whispers. She never did. Words were inefficient. Results spoke louder. Endurance lanes, the senior instructor called out, clipboard in hand. Sprint rotation, go on my mark. He glanced at his stopwatch. 3, 2, 1. They moved. Gravel kicked up in clouds. Breathing thickened immediately. The first 50 meters separated the cocky from the conditioned, the way it always did. But Maya didn't surge forward like the others. She paced herself. Short strides, low to the ground, arms tight to her ribs. Her rhythm was metronomic, steady, efficient, almost mechanical. She didn't look like she was sprinting. She looked like she was calibrating every step. Petty Officer Garrett Voss barreled ahead early. Tall, thick-necked, 6'2" of former college track star, one of the base's fastest on paper. Known for it, proud of it. He led through the first bend, boots pounding hard. Maya didn't change pace. She just curved tighter, cutting the angle, shaving distance. Physics over power, geometry over pride. Second lap, she was even with him. Third lap, she pulled ahead by 2 strides, then 3, then 5. One of the SEALs watching muttered, "No way." Maya crossed the line first, 5 seconds ahead of Voss. Her chest rose and fell steadily, controlled, like she'd just finished a warm-up jog. She didn't glance back, just walked off the track like it was any other drill. "Time?" the instructor asked, frowning at his stopwatch. Another clipboard clicked. 2 minutes, 47 seconds. That's 8 seconds clean off the cycle record. Silence fell across the gravel yard. Not shocked silence, uncomfortable silence. The kind that happens when assumptions get shattered and no one knows what to do about it. Garrett Voss stepped off the track. Sweat streaked down his cheeks. His jaw flexed once, twice. He didn't look at Maya, didn't need to. Everyone else was. That afternoon during wall climb drills, she did it again. The wall was 18 feet of vertical concrete, weathered handholds, designed to test grip strength and route planning. Most candidates took 60 seconds. Fast ones took 50. Maya stood at the base, studying the surface for 5 seconds. Then she moved. Left foot, right foot, pull, hook, clear the top, over and down before most had even chalked their hands. 41 seconds, 5 seconds off the standing record. No wasted motion, no showboating, just perfect efficiency. By dinner, half the unit had lost money on bets they shouldn't have made. The mess hall was louder that night than usual. Forks scraped trays. Plastic cups thudded against steel tabletops. Conversations layered into a constant hum. Some about ammo weights, some about weekend liberty, most about her. She runs, doesn't mean she fights. That sprint was a fluke. Watch her gas out tomorrow with weight. Fast twitch muscles. They give out when it matters. At the center of it all sat Garrett Voss. Posture leaned back, arms stretched wide, boots up on an empty chair like he owned the floor. His crew flanked him. Marcus Thorne, quiet and watchful. Cole Merrick, heavy-shouldered and loyal. Travis Strand, young and eager to prove himself. "She's a distance runner," Voss said, picking at a protein bar. "Marathoners build. Those legs fold when real weight hits them." Someone asked, "You going to challenge her?" Voss chuckled. "What for? Tomorrow's weighted course will snap her like a twig. Just watch." A few others nodded. One of the newer guys added, $50 says she doesn't make checkpoint 3. You betting against her?" Voss raised an eyebrow. The guy hesitated. "Betting on physics." A murmur of agreement passed through the table. Someone laughed. Another slapped the tabletop twice for emphasis. Across the room, Maya sat alone. Same spot as yesterday, same tray, mostly untouched. She ate methodically, cutting her food with the same precision she'd used on the course. She didn't flinch when her name came up in conversation. Didn't look over, just chewed, swallowed, calculated. A younger SEAL, a first-year named Hansen, slid into the seat across from her without asking. "They're taking odds on you now." Maya took a sip of water. "On what?" "Tomorrow, obstacle course, weighted packs. They think you'll tap out." "And you?" Hansen shrugged. "I think they don't like being beaten by math." The corner of Maya's mouth twitched, almost a smile. "Math doesn't lie." "Yeah, well," Hansen glanced over his shoulder at Voss's table. "They don't forgive embarrassment here. You know that, right? Then they should stop earning it." Hansen studied her for a moment, then stood. "Just be careful, Commander. Some people take losing personal." Maya nodded once. Hansen walked away. She finished her meal in silence, then stood, bussed her tray, and left the mess hall. Behind her, the conversations continued. The bets piled higher. The resentment built. Outside, the base was quiet. Stars visible overhead. The Pacific Ocean whispered against the shore, 200 yards away. Maya walked the perimeter path toward her barracks, hands in her pockets, mind already running through tomorrow's course. Weighted obstacle run, 8 checkpoints, timed and monitored, built to break rhythm and lungs and pride. She'd run it 100 times in her head already, knew every rope, every wall, every mud pit, knew exactly where most candidates failed and why. Physics, always physics. Force equals mass times acceleration. Momentum equals mass times velocity. Every movement on that course was just applied mathematics. Understand the equations, and the obstacles became puzzles instead of barriers. In her barracks room, Maya pulled out a worn notebook. Inside were hand-drawn diagrams of the course, annotated with angles, distances, grip points. At the top of the page in careful block letters, economy of motion over brute force. Her mentor's words. Captain Rick Donovan, 28 years in special operations. Killed 6 months ago in a training accident that shouldn't have happened. An equipment failure, a carabiner gate that didn't lock properly, a 60-foot fall that ended a legend. Maya had been there, had watched him check the gear himself, had seen him clip in, had heard the snap when the gate failed. She'd reached for him, too slow, always too slow. The funeral was closed casket, full honors, 21-gun salute. The flag folded and presented to his daughter, who looked at Maya with eyes that asked why she was alive and her father wasn't. Maya didn't have an answer then, still didn't. But she had his knife, his notebook, his lessons, and she had a promise she'd made standing over his grave. I'll finish what you started. I'll teach them what we learned. She closed the notebook, set it on her footlocker, lay back on her rack and stared at the ceiling until sleep came. The next morning arrived in darkness. 04:30 hours. Again, always 04:30. The military didn't believe in sleeping in. Maya dressed in silence, double-wrapped her knees under her trousers, a precaution born from years of hard landings in rough terrain. Laced her boots tight, checked her gear twice. The weighted obstacle course waited like a judgment. She arrived before the others. No fanfare. Just a 60-pound pack strapped evenly across her shoulders, boots laced tight, hands loose at her sides. She stood at the starting line, breathing slow and even, studying the course one final time. Garrett Voss's crew came up behind her, louder this time, confident. "Morning, ma'am," Cole Merrick said with a mock salute. "Need help lifting that pack?" Maya didn't answer. She just stepped onto the line and waited for the signal. The course was brutal by design. Ropes, trench crawls, wall traverses, mud pits, incline climbs, gear lifts, 8 checkpoints, timed, monitored, built to break rhythm in lungs, in pride. The horn sounded. Maya didn't run. She flowed. Every obstacle was a formula. Climb, drop to knees, hook, elbow, use gravity. She never overextended, never powered through with brute force. She timed her breath to the weight shift, to the footing, to the grit under her boots. Efficiency over strength. Angles over aggression. At checkpoint 3, where they said she'd fold, she rolled her shoulder, adjusted her wrist strap, and kept going without pausing. Her breathing stayed steady. Her pace remained constant. The pack might as well have been empty for all the strain she showed. By checkpoint 6, the whispers had stopped. She finished with 28 seconds left on the master clock. When she stepped off the course, she didn't look back. Didn't need to. The silence behind her said enough. She unlaced her boots at the edge of the track. Quiet, calm. Same as yesterday. She didn't smile. Didn't have to. The base was quieter that evening. Not peaceful quiet, tense quiet. The kind that settles over a place when the established order gets challenged and no one knows what comes next. In the mess hall, Voss's table was subdued. No loud boasts, no betting pools, just low conversations and sideways glances. Voss himself sat silent, staring at his tray like it held answers. Marcus Thorne watched him with concern. Cole Merrick and Travis Strand exchanged looks but said nothing. Across the room, Maya ate alone again. Same routine, same precision. But this time, when she finished, she didn't leave immediately. She pulled out a small notepad, wrote something down, tore off the page, stood, walked past Voss's table, and dropped the note in the trash bin near the exit. She didn't look at them, didn't need to, but Marcus Thorne saw. And later, after Maya left, after the mess hall cleared, he retrieved that note. On it, in neat handwriting, checkpoint 3, 0900 tomorrow. Bring questions. It wasn't a challenge, it was an offer. She was offering to teach. Marcus stared at the note for a long time. Then he folded it carefully and put it in his pocket. The next morning, Maya stood at checkpoint 3, alone. 0900 hours exactly. No one came. She waited 15 minutes, then went back to her duties. That afternoon, she found her rappelling harness in the equipment cage. 3 bolts loosened. Not enough to fail immediately, just enough to fail under stress, under weight, under trust. Maya didn't report it. She just pulled out her phone, photographed the evidence, and uploaded it to a secure cloud account. Then she tightened the bolts herself and continued with her day. The sabotage continued. Small things. A heating coil unplugged from her berthing space, leaving her gear cold and damp. He drained from a training rig she was scheduled to use. Maintenance logs showing work she'd never signed off on. Each time, Maya documented, photographed, uploaded, built her case piece by piece, patient and methodical. The next 2 days followed the same pattern. Technical demonstrations, combat drills, hand-to-hand instruction where she took down a 200-pound Marine using joint locks and leverage. M4, A1, disassembly, blindfolded in 34 seconds. Explaining firing pin spring tension and bolt carrier physics while her hands moved with mechanical precision. Each session proved her competence. Each success built Voss's rage. And each night when the base went quiet, she trained alone in the shadows, preparing for violence she knew was coming. Because men who sabotage in darkness don't stop at sabotage. They escalate. On the 5th day, Marcus Thorne left another note under her door. This one said simply, "They're planning something. Soon." Maya read it twice, then burned it in her sink and washed the ashes down the drain. That night, she placed her backup phone in the equipment cage, set up the hidden microphone, made the call to Commander Westfield, informing him she might need his authorization for something off books. "What are you expecting, Maya?" he'd asked. "The truth," she replied, "one way or another." On the 6th day, everything was ready. The evidence was backed up. The equipment was positioned. The plan was set. All that remained was waiting. And when the violence came exactly as predicted, when Maya crawled from that depot with broken legs and perfect evidence, she knew one thing with absolute certainty. They hadn't ended her. They'd made her inevitable. The real work was about to begin. The base hospital at Coronado smelled of antiseptic and old coffee. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting everything in harsh white. 0300 hours. The graveyard shift. When most of the world slept and the broken stayed awake. Maya Brennan sat upright on the examination table, legs extended, hands folded in her lap. She hadn't made a sound during the x-rays, hadn't flinched when the technician moved her legs to get better angles. Just stared straight ahead, breathing controlled, waiting. The orthopedic surgeon entered, a Navy lieutenant commander named Patterson. 40-something, tired eyes, 20 years of putting operators back together. He clipped the x-rays to the light board and stood there for a moment, studying them. "Commander Brennan," his voice was professional, careful. "Your right knee has a lateral tibial plateau fracture with 8 millimeters of displacement. Your left knee has a medial tibial fracture, 6 millimeters displaced. Both require surgical intervention. Pins, possibly plates. You're looking at 6 to 8 months of recovery before you can return to any kind of active duty. Administrative work only for the foreseeable future." Maya didn't react, just kept staring at the x-rays like she was studying a map of enemy territory. "Did you hear me, Commander?" "I heard you. You understand what this means? Your career as a field operator is effectively over." "No." Maya's voice was flat, final. "It's not." Patterson turned to face her. "Commander, with all due respect, the damage is extensive. Even with surgery and optimal recovery, you'll have permanent mobility restrictions. Running, jumping, any kind of impact activity. Fit me with braces." He blinked. "Excuse me?" "Carbon fiber splints, full leg braces, whatever you have. I need to be mobile within 48 hours. That's not medically advisable. You need surgery, not, I'm not filing assault charges. The room went quiet. Patterson's expressions shifted from professional concern to something harder to read. He glanced at the door, then back at Maya. What happened to you, Commander? Training accident. That's not what this looks like. Maya met his eyes. That's what the report will say. Patterson stood there for a long moment, war playing out behind his eyes. The doctor in him wanted to push, to demand the truth, to do right by his patient. But the officer in him recognized a wall when he saw one. Why? He asked finally. Because filing charges accomplishes nothing. They'll lawyer up. It'll be my word against theirs. The investigation will drag on for months. And in the end, maybe one of them gets a reprimand. Maybe. Maya's jaw tightened. I'm not interested in maybes. Then what are you interested in? Certainty. Patterson looked at her for another moment, then pulled out his tablet, started making notes. I'll fit you with temporary braces, carbon fiber with titanium reinforcement. They'll stabilize the fractures. But Commander, you need to understand, any significant stress in those knees could cause permanent damage, nerve damage, arterial damage. You could lose function entirely. I understand. Do you? Because I've seen operators push through injuries before, thinking they're invincible. And I've seen those same operators end up in wheelchairs by 40. Maya leaned forward slightly. Dr. Patterson, I've spent 10 years learning how to move efficiently, how to use physics instead of force, how to calculate angles in leverage and momentum. My legs are broken, but my mind isn't. And right now, my mind is the only weapon I need. He studied her face, searching for bravado, for false confidence, for the crack that would let him argue her into sense. He found none of it. 7 days, she added. That's all I need. After that, I'll come back. I'll have the surgery. I'll do the recovery properly. But I need 7 days. To do what? To finish what they started. Patterson saved his notes, closed his tablet. I'll have the braces ready by 0600. But Commander, if you cause irreparable damage to those knees, I can't help you. I'm not asking you to. He left without another word. Maya sat alone in the examination room, looking down at her ruined knees. The swelling had worsened. Dark purple bruises spread across both joints like ink in water. Every small movement sent fresh waves of pain radiating up her legs. She pulled out her phone, opened the cloud storage, reviewed the footage one more time. The attack, the assault, the evidence, all there, all documented, all waiting. Then she opened her contacts and called Commander Dalton Westfield. He answered on the second ring. Brennan, I've been waiting for your call. Are you at medical? Yes, sir. What's the damage? Both tibial fractures, 6 to 8 months standard recovery. Silence on the other end. Then quietly, Jesus, Maya. I need to tell you something, Commander. Something that happened 20 months ago. I'm listening. A SEAL instructor named Carlos Rodriguez. Do you remember him? The pause was longer this time. When Westfield spoke again, his voice had changed. Heavier. Older. I remember. Tell me what happened. Maya, that's ancient history. It's been dealt with. Tell me what happened. Another pause. Then Westfield exhaled, long and slow. Rodriguez was attacked. Similar circumstances to yours. Supply area, late night, multiple assailants. He ended up with a broken collarbone, 3 cracked ribs, and a concussion. When I arrived on scene, I was a junior commander then, only 2 years into the rank. He was conscious, lucid. He told me exactly who did it and why. And Senior Chief Brant Kellerman pulled me aside, told me Rodriguez was a good operator, but sometimes people need to learn their place. Told me that filing charges would hurt unit cohesion, that it would make the whole team look weak, that it would be better for everyone if Rodriguez just accepted a transfer and moved on. And you listened. I was a junior commander, Maya. Kellerman had 30 years in. He was a legend, a Cold War-era operator who'd survived things I couldn't imagine. When he told me that's how things were done, I believed him. Did Rodriguez transfer? He resigned, left the Navy entirely. Last I heard, he's doing civilian security work in San Diego. Westfield's voice cracked slightly. It's haunted me ever since, knowing I could have done something, should have done something. But I chose the easy path. I chose to look away. Maya absorbed this. Who were the attackers? 3 enlisted men. One of them was a young petty officer 3rd class, fresh out of training, Kellerman's protege. Westfield paused. Name was Garrett Voss. The pieces fell into place, a pattern emerging from chaos. Not a personal vendetta, institutional rot, learned behavior passed down like a disease. There's more, Maya said. I accessed the security archives, found footage of the Rodriguez incident. Voss was there. So was Marcus Thorne. They watched it happen, participated maybe, and nothing happened to them. Because Kellerman protected them. And who's protecting them now? Westfield was quiet for a long moment. Kellerman's still on base, still senior chief, still influential, still the old guard. Not for much longer. Maya, what are you planning? I'm planning to document everything, build a case so airtight that even Kellerman can't bury it. And then I'm going to present it to someone who actually gives a damn about justice. Who? Admiral Patricia Chambers. Westfield whistled low. You're going straight to the top. The top is where change happens, Commander. Everyone below is just trying to maintain the status quo. And you think Chambers will listen? I know she will. She's been trying to reform SEAL culture for 5 years. She just needs the ammunition. I'm going to give it to her. And if this goes wrong, if Voss and his crew come after you again, Maya's voice went cold. Then I'll be ready, which is why I need your authorization. 7 days. Reflex Bay 3. Off hours, no logs. To do what, Maya? To adapt. Westfield was quiet for so long Maya thought the line had dropped. Then, you're going to train, with broken legs, to fight men who've already proven they'll hurt you. Yes, sir. That's insane. That's necessary. Another pause. Then Westfield spoke, and his voice carried the weight of old guilt, finally finding redemption. You have your 7 days, Commander, but I want updates, every 48 hours. And if this goes sideways, if you end up hurt worse than you already are, I'm pulling the plug. Understood? Understood. And Maya, when this is over, when you've built your case and presented it to Chambers, I want to testify about Rodriguez, about Kellerman, about my failure. I won't look away again. Thank you, Commander. Don't thank me yet, just survive the next week. The line went dead. Maya sat alone in the examination room, phone in hand, legs throbbing, mind racing. 7 days, that's all she had. 7 days to transform from victim to weapon. 7 days to prove that broken bones didn't mean broken spirit. 7 days to teach Garrett Voss and his crew what Navy SEALs really meant. At 0600 hours, Dr. Patterson returned with the braces. Carbon fiber shells with titanium reinforcement rods running the length of her legs. Polymer padding on the interior. Velcro straps and metal buckles for secure fit. They look like something from a science fiction film. These will lock your knees in place, Patterson explained as he helped her fit them. No flexion, no rotation. You'll walk stiff-legged. Stairs will be difficult. Running will be impossible. Maya adjusted the straps, testing the fit. What's the weight capacity? They're rated for standard body weight plus 50 pounds of gear. But Commander, that's under normal circumstances. With your fractures, what's the tensile strength of the titanium rods? Patterson blinked. Around 90,000 psi. Why? And the carbon fiber? The weave pattern gives it roughly 30,000 psi compressive strength. Again, why are you asking? Maya stood. The braces held. Her legs screamed in protest, but the structure remained solid. She took a step, stiff, awkward, like learning to walk for the first time. Because I need to know what I'm working with. She took another step. Better. Her body was already adapting, finding the rhythm. Thank you, doctor. Commander, wait. But Maya was already leaving. Slow, deliberate, each step a small victory over pain and physics. She went directly to her barracks, grabbed a duffel bag, filled it with essentials, change of clothes, protein bars, water bottles, her worn bench-made knife, Captain Donovan's notebook. Then she headed for Reflex Bay 3. The training facility sat at the far edge of the base, away from the main compounds. Originally designed for close-quarters combat drills, it had been mothballed 3 years ago when newer facilities opened up. Now it was just empty space, concrete floors, padded walls, old equipment gathering dust. Perfect. Maya stood in the center of the bay, looking around with a tactician's eye. Heavy bags suspended from the ceiling, half deflated. Pull-up bar mounted on the far wall. Wrestling mats stacked in the corner. Wooden dummy for strike practice. Arms positioned at various heights. She set down her duffel bag and pulled out Donovan's notebook. Flipped to a page near the back. Her mentor's handwriting, sharp and precise. When the body fails, the mind compensates. Physics doesn't care about strength. It cares about angles, leverage, timing. Master these and limitation becomes advantage. Maya read it 3 times. Then she closed the notebook and got to work. Day 1 was inventory. She cataloged every piece of equipment in the bay, measured distances between objects, calculated angles, mapped the acoustic properties of the space, timing how sound echoed off the walls. If she was going to fight in this environment, she needed to know it better than she knew herself. She tested the braces, tried pivoting on her locked knees, found that by rotating her hips, she could turn her entire body nearly 360 degrees in less than a second. The braces actually helped, providing a stable axis point, like a compass needle, fixed and precise. She practiced falling, dropped to the mats again and again, learning how to control the descent with upper body strength alone, how to roll without bending her knees, how to turn a fall into a weapon, using her body weight and momentum to generate force. By midnight, she'd fallen 50 times. Her shoulders ached, her hands were raw, but she was learning. Day 2 was engineering. Maya stripped the braces down to their component parts, studied the construction, found the weak points, then she rebuilt them. She salvaged titanium rods from an old halo harness in the storage room, reinforced the existing structure, added shock-absorbing polymer plates at the pivot points, borrowed from knee pads used in parachute training, created a counterbalance webbing system using old rigger straps, distributing weight 60% to her hips, 40% to her shoulders. When she was done, the braces looked brutal, industrial, like something a cyborg would wear. She tested them with an 80-pound sandbag, dropped it from shoulder height directly onto her braced knee. The impact rang through the bay. The brace held, not even a crack. She calculated the stress vectors. The titanium could handle her body weight, plus force equivalent to a 200-pound man driving into her at full speed. Enough. It would have to be enough. Day 3 was adaptation. Maya stood before the heavy bag and threw her first strike. It was pathetic, weak, uncoordinated. Without leg drive, without the ability to shift her weight through her lower body, she had no power. She tried again. Same result. Again. Nothing. She stepped back, breathing hard, sweat already forming. This wasn't going to work. She couldn't generate force the traditional way, so she needed a new way. Maya pulled out her phone, searched for fighting systems that didn't rely on leg strength, found Sistema, the Russian martial art, built on principles of relaxation and breathing, using opponents' momentum, minimal muscular tension. She watched videos for an hour, studied the movements, saw how practitioners let attacks come to them, then redirected force rather than blocking it, how they collapsed their own structure to create angles, how they breathed through everything, staying loose, staying fluid. Then she stood up and tried again. This time she didn't try to hit hard. She tried to move efficiently, rotated her hips, let her torso generate the force, kept her core tight and her shoulders loose. Used the bag's return swing to time her strikes, intercepting momentum rather than creating it. Better, not good, but better. She trained for 6 hours straight, 200 strikes, 300, lost count after 400. Her technique refined with each repetition. She learned to pivot on her braced legs, using hip rotation to generate torque. Discovered that by dropping her weight suddenly, she could add gravitational force to her strikes. Found that by staying relaxed until the moment of impact, she could let the target's own resistance amplify her power. By the end of day 3, she was hitting the bag with 340 pounds per square inch of force. Not as hard as a full-powered strike from a standing position, but enough. Enough to break ribs, crack jaws, shut down nervous systems. Day 4 was timing. Maya set up a training scenario, used the wooden dummy, positioning its arms at different heights and angles. Then she blindfolded herself. In the darkness behind the cloth, she listened. The bay had its own rhythm, the hum of ventilation, the creak of the suspended bag swaying slightly, the echo of her own breathing off the padded walls. She reached out, moving slowly, mapping the space through sound and memory, found the dummy, traced its arms with her hands, memorized the positions. Then she stepped back, counted to 3, moved. Her hand found the dummy's left arm, shoulder height. She swept it aside with a wrist redirect, pivoted on her locked knee, found the right arm, lower, knee height if she'd been able to bend. She dropped her weight, caught it with both hands, used the dummy's rigid structure as leverage to swing her body in an arc. She did this for hours, attack patterns emerging from repetition, her body learning to navigate space without sight, relying on sound, on touch, on instinct honed through 10 years of combat operations. By the end of day 4, she could move through the bay blindfolded and hit any target within 10 feet in under 2 seconds. Day 5 was weapons adaptation. Maya studied the modified forearm crutch she'd been using for mobility. Standard aluminum, lightweight, designed to take pressure off injured legs. Inadequate. She disassembled it, replaced the aluminum shaft with a steel rod from the equipment room, added rubber grip tape, reinforced the armrest with polymer padding. When she was done, it weighed 4 pounds and could be used as a striking weapon, a lever, or a hook. She practiced with it for hours, using it to extend her reach, to redirect incoming attacks, to create angles that wouldn't exist without it. The crutch became an extension of her arm, moving with the same fluidity as her strikes. She also worked without it, because in a real fight, weapons get dropped, get taken away. She needed to be just as dangerous with nothing in her hands. She practiced falling again, but this time she practiced falling into attacks, dropping her weight suddenly while throwing strikes, using gravity as force multiplier, turning defensive maneuvers into offensive weapons. By the end of day 5, she developed a complete fighting system, built on physics and timing, on angles and leverage, on using her opponent's expectations against them. They'd expect her to be weak, immobile, defensive. She'd be none of those things. Day 6 was evidence review. Maya sat in the center of the bay, laptop open, going through everything she'd collected. The footage of her attack, the audio recordings, the photographs of sabotaged equipment, the security archives showing the Rodriguez incident. But she needed more. She needed proof that this was systemic, that it went beyond Voss and his crew, that Senior Chief Kellerman was protecting them. She made a phone call to a number she'd found in Westfield's contact list. Hello? Carlos Rodriguez? Who's asking? Lieutenant Commander Maya Brennan, Navy SEALs. Commander Westfield gave me your number. Silence on the other end, then cautious. What do you want? I want to know what happened to you 20 months ago. That's ancient history. It's current events. The same men who attacked you just attacked me. Same location, same tactics, same senior chief covering for them. More silence. Then, they broke your legs, didn't they? Yes. And you're calling me instead of filing charges. Because charges accomplish nothing. I need testimony, evidence, a pattern that proves this isn't isolated. Rodriguez exhaled. You know what you're asking? If I testify, I have to relive the worst night of my career. I have to admit I was beaten and did nothing about it. That I ran. You didn't run. You were pushed out by a system designed to protect the guilty. Maya's voice softened. But that system is about to change. Admiral Patricia Chambers is looking for a reason to reform SEAL culture. We can give her that reason, but I need your help. What do you need? Everything. Your statement, medical records, anything you kept from that night. And I need to know, are there others? Other instructors who were attacked and told to keep quiet? Rodriguez was quiet for a long moment. Two that I know of, one at Camp Pendleton, one at Little Creek. But they won't talk. They have families, careers. They don't want to risk it. They won't have to. If we can prove a pattern with just your case in mind, the Navy will have to investigate the others. The pressure will come from above, not from us. You really think this will work? I know it will, because I have something you didn't have. What's that? Video evidence, audio recordings, and a week to make sure that when they come for me again, everything is documented. Rodriguez laughed, but there was no humor in it. They're coming for you again? Jesus, Commander, you're using yourself as bait. I'm using myself as proof. There's a difference. And if you're wrong, if they hurt you worse than they already have. Maya looked down at her braced legs, at the modified equipment surrounding her, at the training bay that had become her fortress and her laboratory. Then I'll adapt again. Rodriguez agreed to testify, said he'd send his records by secure email within 24 hours. Also provided contact information for the other two instructors, in case Maya needed them. When she hung up, she had everything. The case was built. The evidence was airtight. All that remained was the trigger. And on day 7, the trigger came. The message arrived at 1800 hours, unofficial, unsigned, just a red stripe across the duty roster. Closed training drill, Reflex Bay 2, 2100 hours. Mandatory attendance, Brennan, M. Maya stared at the notification. So obvious, so arrogant. Voss was done being subtle. She pulled up the security protocols for Reflex Bay 2, found that the camera system had been temporarily disabled for maintenance that morning. No witnesses, no documentation. Perfect. Because Maya had already placed her own cameras, 3 of them, battery-powered, hidden in the ventilation grates and behind equipment panels, streaming directly to her secure cloud storage. Whatever happened tonight would be recorded from multiple angles. She suited up, not in standard training gear, in her modified braces, her reinforced tactical trousers, her weighted crutch. This wasn't training, this was war. At 2050 hours, she walked to Reflex Bay 2. Slow, deliberate, each step echoing through the empty corridors. The bay doors were open, lights on, 4 men waiting inside. Garrett Voss stood at the center, Marcus Thorne to his left, Cole Merrick and Travis Strand flanking them, all in fatigues, all ready. A combat camera operator stood off to one side, official Navy documentation equipment in hand. And in the corner, holding a clipboard, was a range supervisor Maya didn't recognize. Voss had made this official, or at least given it the appearance of legitimacy. Commander Brennan, Voss's voice was formal, cold. You're here for your physical readiness evaluation, standard procedure after injury. Maya stepped into the bay. The door closed behind her with a heavy thud. I wasn't informed of any evaluation, Petty Officer. Last-minute addition to the training schedule. You understand how it is. Voss smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "We need to make sure you're still capable of field operations. For your own safety." "How considerate. Are you ready to begin?" Maya looked at each of them in turn. Voss, confident and cruel. Merrick, heavy and aggressive. Strand, young and eager to prove himself. And Thorne, standing furthest back, his face unreadable. She set her crutch against the wall, stood on her locked braces, arms loose at her sides. "Ready." The range supervisor gave the signal. The buzzer chirped once, and the room exploded into motion. Travis Strand came first, youngest, fastest, most eager. He charged straight at her, center line, no feint, pure aggression. Maya didn't move until he was 3 feet away. Then she shifted. Not a big movement, just 6 inches to her left, enough that his charge missed by a fraction. As he passed, she rotated on her locked knee joint, hip moving like a pivot, and caught him with her forearm. Not a block, a redirect, using his momentum against him. He stumbled into the padded wall. Before he could recover, she was there. 2 strikes, solar plexus in jaw, core torque generating the force. 340 pounds per square inch. His breath left in a rush, his knees buckled. Down in 2.3 seconds. Cole Merrick came next, heavier, stronger, a grappler by instinct. He tried to tackle her, arms reaching to wrap around her midsection. Maya dropped. Not a fall, a controlled descent. She let her body weight collapse downward, slipping under his grasp. As she went down, she rotated, using her locked braces as an axis. Her leg caught behind his knee. Not a sweep, just physics. And his own forward momentum toppled him. He hit the mat hard. Before he could process what happened, Maya had rotated again, catching his extended arm in a joint lock. Not muscle against muscle, just angles, leverage. She applied pressure to his elbow joint. Not enough to break, just enough to immobilize. Down in 3.1 seconds. Garrett Voss and Marcus Thorne came together, split her focus, one in front, one behind. The classic pincer, the move they'd used successfully before. But Maya had trained for this, had practiced it hundreds of times in Reflex Bay 3. She waited until they were within striking distance. Then she did something unexpected. She dropped her defensive posture entirely, turned her back on Thorne, focused completely on Voss. He saw the opening, took it, threw a straight punch aimed at her face. Commitment, full power, everything behind it. Maya caught his fist. Not a grab, a trap. Using both hands, she rotated his wrist using an Aikido technique, turning his forward momentum into a spiral. His body followed his hand, twisting. His balance broke. And that's when she felt Thorne grab her from behind. She'd known he would, counted on it. His arms wrapped around her shoulders, pinning her. Perfect. Maya collapsed her weight backward, letting Thorne take all of it. He stumbled, and in that moment of imbalance, she rotated. Hip twist, core torque, using his own grip as leverage. Thorne fell. Voss, still trapped in the wrist lock, fell with him. Both men collided, tangled. Maya swept her braced leg across the ground. The steel edge of her brace caught Voss's ankle. Not hard, just precisely placed. His Achilles tendon took the impact. He gasped, rolled away, clutching his leg. Thorne tried to stand. Maya was already moving. One strike, base of his neck, not full power, just enough to stun. He dropped. Silence filled Reflex Bay 2. 4 men on the ground, all of them moaning, none of them standing. Maya rose slowly, her braced legs locked, her breathing steady. She wasn't even winded. The combat camera operator's jaw had dropped. His equipment was still recording. The range supervisor was frozen, clipboard in hand, eyes wide. And from the observation room's one-way glass, a door opened. Admiral Patricia Chambers stepped out, 62 years old, gray hair pulled back, eyes sharp as razors. She'd been watching the whole time. Behind her came Commander Dalton Westfield. "Commander Brennan." Chambers's voice carried authority that made generals nervous. "Interesting demonstration." Maya stood at attention as best she could with locked knees. "Ma'am." "Petty Officer Voss." Chambers turned her gaze to the man still clutching his ankle. "You're confined to barracks pending investigation. The rest of you, medical check, then report to your COs." Voss tried to speak. "Admiral, this was just a mistake." Chambers cut him off. "The biggest one of your career. Commander Westfield, secure all footage. I want this camera feed, plus any other recordings from this bay. Everything." "Yes, ma'am." Chambers turned back to Maya. "Commander, you'll come with me. We need to talk." As Maya walked out of Reflex Bay 2, she passed Marcus Thorne. He was sitting up now, one hand on his neck, watching her go. Their eyes met for just a moment. He nodded once, small, respectful. She nodded back. Because unlike the others, Thorne had hesitated during the fight. His grip hadn't been as tight, his commitment not as complete, and Maya had felt it. The seeds of testimony growing in darkness. Outside the bay, as Chambers and Westfield led her down the corridor, Maya allowed herself the smallest smile. 7 days. That's all it took. 7 days to transform from victim to weapon, from broken to unbreakable. But the fight wasn't over yet. The real battle was just beginning. The night air hit cold against Maya's face as she stepped outside Reflex Bay 2. Stars overhead, Pacific wind carrying salt and distance. Behind her, medical personnel rushed past to attend to 4 men who'd learned that broken didn't mean beaten. Admiral Patricia Chambers walked 3 paces ahead, spine straight, boots striking concrete with metronomic precision. Commander Westfield flanked Maya's right side, silent, watchful. They moved through the base like a formation, purposeful and grim. "Where are we going, ma'am?" Maya asked. "Somewhere we can talk without interruption." Chambers didn't look back. "Somewhere that's been overdue for a conversation for about 5 years." They arrived at a building Maya had passed hundreds of times but never entered. Administrative Block 7. Officers' Conference Wing. The places where policy was written and careers were ended. Chambers used her keycard, led them through empty hallways to a secure briefing room. Steel door, cipher lock, soundproofed walls. When the door closed behind them, it felt like entering a vault. The room was sparse. Long table, 12 chairs, digital display screens on one wall. No windows, just fluorescent lighting that made everything look clinical and final. "Sit," Chambers said. Maya lowered herself carefully into a chair, her braced legs extending stiffly beneath the table. Westfield took a position near the door, arms crossed. Chambers remained standing. She pulled a tablet from her briefcase, tapped through several files, then set it on the table. "Commander Brennan, I'm going to ask you direct questions. I expect direct answers. Understood?" "Yes, ma'am." "What happened 7 nights ago in the supply depot?" Maya had prepared for this, had rehearsed the words until they came without emotion. "Petty Officer Garrett Voss and 3 others assaulted me. They fractured both my tibial plateaus. Then they threatened me to prevent filing charges." "Why didn't you report it immediately?" "Because I needed to build a case that couldn't be buried." Chambers' eyes narrowed. "Explain." Maya pulled out her phone, opened her secure cloud storage, turned the screen toward the Admiral. "I documented everything. The initial assault, audio and video, the sabotage of my equipment prior to the attack, security footage from similar incidents in the past, testimony from previous victims, and tonight's altercation recorded from 3 angles." Chambers took the phone, scrolled through the files. Her expression didn't change, but her jaw tightened incrementally with each video she reviewed. "You've been investigating this on your own for 7 days." "Yes, ma'am." "While injured, while technically on medical leave." "Yes, ma'am. And you deliberately placed yourself in harm's way tonight to document their pattern of behavior. I placed myself in a training scenario. What happened next was their choice, not mine. Chambers set the phone down. You used yourself as bait. I used myself as evidence. For a long moment, the Admiral said nothing, just studied Maya with the kind of scrutiny that had broken junior officers during review boards, looking for weakness, for doubt, for the crack that would let her dismiss this as personal vendetta rather than professional documentation. She found none of it. Commander Westfield, Chambers turned. You authorized her access to Reflex Bay 3, off the books, no official logs. Yes, ma'am. Westfield's voice was steady. Commander Brennan requested resources to recover from her injuries. I provided them. And you knew she was planning something. I knew she deserved the chance to defend herself. Did you know about the Rodriguez incident? Westfield's shoulders tensed. Yes, ma'am. I was present when it occurred. I was ordered by Senior Chief Brant Kellerman to let it resolve quietly. I complied with that order. It's one of the greatest regrets of my career. Chambers absorbed this, turned back to Maya. Tell me about Rodriguez. Maya pulled up another file on her phone. Carlos Rodriguez, SEAL instructor, attacked 20 months ago by personnel including Garrett Voss. Similar circumstances, similar injuries. Senior Chief Kellerman convinced command to handle it internally. Rodriguez resigned rather than pursue charges. He's willing to testify now. And there are others? 2 more instructors, Camp Pendleton and Little Creek. Same pattern, same cover-up. Rodriguez has their contact information. Chambers walked to the far end of the room, stood with her back to them, hands clasped behind her. When she spoke again, her voice was quieter, harder. 5 years. I've been pushing for cultural reform in SEAL training programs for 5 years. Every proposal I've submitted has been blocked by senior enlisted leadership. Men who insist that the old ways are the best ways. That toughness requires brutality. That questioning authority is weakness. She turned back. I've needed evidence, undeniable, documented proof that the system is broken. You've just handed it to me. Yes, ma'am. Do you understand what happens next? Once I put this in motion, there's no stopping it. Investigations, board reviews, court-martials. The media will get involved. Your name will be public. Your injuries will be scrutinized. Defense attorneys will tear apart every decision you made. Maya met her eyes. I understand. They'll say you should have reported immediately, that you compromised the investigation by training on your own, that tonight's altercation was entrapment. Let them say it. The evidence speaks for itself. Evidence that you collected while technically violating medical orders and conducting an unauthorized investigation. Ma'am, respectfully, I collected evidence while an active duty officer witnessed a pattern of criminal behavior. The fact that I was injured doesn't change my obligation to document threats to operational integrity. The corner of Chambers' mouth twitched, almost a smile. You've thought this through. I've had 7 days to think about nothing else. Chambers picked up Maya's phone again, scrolled through more files, stopped on one. Her expression shifted. This audio recording, from a supply closet, where did you get this? I placed a monitoring device after discovering my equipment had been sabotaged. It captured a conversation between members of Voss's crew. Chambers played the audio. A voice, young and uncertain. You really think this is a good idea? She hasn't done anything except be better than us. Another voice, harder. That's the point. She makes us look weak. My old man already thinks I'm nothing. Then she shows up and proves him right. A third voice. Don't worry, she won't fight back. She can't. The recording ended. Chambers set the phone down. That's Voss, Merrick, and Strand. Clear premeditation, clear intent. She looked at Maya. This changes everything. Yes, ma'am. I'm convening a full board review. 48 hours. You'll present your evidence. Westfield will testify about Rodriguez. We'll subpoena Kellerman's communications and decision logs. Chambers pulled her own tablet out, started making notes. I'll need Rodriguez's testimony via secure video link. And those other two instructors, even if they don't testify, we need their incident reports pulled. Rodriguez is standing by. He'll send everything tonight. Good, Chambers continued typing. The board will include representatives from JAG, Naval Criminal Investigative Service, and Senior SEAL Command. I'll chair it personally. This isn't going through normal channels. This is going straight to the top. Maya felt something loosen in her chest. Not relief, not yet, but the beginning of it. Thank you, ma'am. Don't thank me yet, Commander. This is going to get ugly. Kellerman has allies. Voss will have a defense attorney. There will be pushback from people who think this is a witch hunt or political correctness run amok. Chambers locked eyes with Maya. Can you handle that? Ma'am, they broke both my legs, and I spent the next week turning myself into a weapon they couldn't stop. I can handle some uncomfortable questions. This time Chambers did smile, grim and fierce. I believe you can. She turned to Westfield. Commander, I want Voss and his crew confined to barracks. No communications, no visitors, post guards if necessary, and get me Kellerman's location. He's in his quarters. Wake him up. Tell him to report to my office at 0600. We're having a conversation he's been avoiding for 20 years. Yes, ma'am. Chambers gathered her tablet. Commander Brennan, you're off active duty pending the board review. Medical orders. Stay in your quarters. Rest those legs. Let Dr. Patterson monitor your recovery. Understood? Yes, ma'am. And Commander, Chambers paused at the door. What you did this week, training on broken legs, building an investigation while injured, taking on 4 men in combat, that was either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. I haven't decided which yet. Permission to speak freely, ma'am? Granted. It was both, but it was also necessary. Chambers held her gaze for another moment, then nodded. 48 hours. Get some rest. You're going to need it. She left. Westfield lingered. Maya. His voice was softer now. Are you all right? She looked down at her braced legs, at the phone full of evidence, at the room where policy was about to shift. I'm exactly where I need to be, Commander. That's not what I asked. Maya was quiet for a moment, then, they broke my legs. They thought that would end me. And for about 30 seconds, I believed them. She looked up. But then I remembered something Captain Donovan told me. He said the body breaks, but the mind adapts. That's the real training, not the muscles, the mindset. He was a good man. He was the best. And he died because someone didn't check equipment properly. Because shortcuts got taken. Because culture prioritized speed over safety. Maya's voice hardened. That same culture told Rodriguez to stay quiet, told you to look away, told Voss he could hurt people without consequences. I'm not ending that culture for me, Commander. I'm ending it for the next operator who comes through here, so they don't have to choose between their career and their safety. Westfield nodded slowly. Rodriguez will be proud. When he testifies, when he sees what you built, he'll know his silence wasn't wasted. It was never wasted. It was just waiting for the right moment. Maya stood carefully. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to sleep. Tomorrow's going to be a long day. But sleep didn't come easily. Maya lay in her barracks rack, staring at the ceiling, legs elevated on pillows to reduce swelling. Pain throbbed through both knees despite the medication. Every position was uncomfortable. Every movement sent fresh signals to her brain that damage had been done. She pulled out her phone, opened her photos, scrolled back 6 months to a picture she'd taken at Captain Donovan's funeral. The flag-draped coffin, the honor guard, his daughter's face, pale and hollow, standing beside an empty grave. Maya had stood at the back of the crowd that day, hadn't approached the family, hadn't offered condolences. Because what could she say? I'm sorry I delegated the equipment check. I'm sorry I trusted someone else to do my job. Donovan had taught her that responsibility couldn't be delegated, that every operator had to verify their own gear. That trust was earned through consistent attention to detail, not assumed through rank or reputation. And she'd forgotten that lesson. For one day, one critical day. The equipment failure that killed him had been traced to a carabiner with a faulty gate mechanism. An issue that would have been caught during a proper inspection. An issue that Maya should have caught, would have caught, if she hadn't been buried in paperwork and training schedules and administrative duties. She'd been too busy being an officer to be an operator, and Donovan paid for it with his life. That guilt had driven her to request field instruction duty, to get back to basics, to teach the fundamentals that kept people alive. No more desk work, no more delegation, just hands-on training, verifying every detail herself, ensuring no other mentor died because someone cut corners. But Garrett Voss had seen her return as something else, as proof that women were taking positions they didn't deserve, that standards were lowering, that the old guard was being pushed out by political correctness. He'd seen her competence as an insult to his pride, and pride, unchecked, became violence. Maya closed the photo, opened a new message to Carlos Rodriguez. The board review is in 48 hours. Admiral Chambers is chairing it personally. Your testimony will be remote, but on record. Are you ready? The response came 3 minutes later. Been ready for 20 months. Just needed someone brave enough to light the fuse. Thank you, Commander. Maya typed back. Thank you for keeping records, for not destroying the evidence, for believing this day would come. Honestly, I didn't believe it, but I'm glad I was wrong. Get some rest. Tomorrow changes everything. She set the phone down, closed her eyes, and finally, mercifully, sleep came. The next 36 hours passed in a blur of preparation. Dr. Patterson examined her legs, took new x-rays, documented the additional stress she'd placed on the fractures during the Reflex Bay 2 encounter. He didn't lecture her, just shook his head and made detailed notes for the medical board. You've done permanent damage, Commander. The fractures have displaced further. You'll need surgery sooner rather than later, and your recovery time just doubled. After the board review, Maya, you're risking. After the board review, he knew better than to argue, just scheduled her for surgery 3 days out and sent her back to her quarters with strict orders to stay off her feet. She ignored the orders, spent the time reviewing her evidence, organizing the files chronologically, creating a presentation that would walk the board through every detail, every decision, every moment of premeditation and violence. Commander Westfield visited twice, once to inform her that Voss and his crew were confined, once to tell her that Senior Chief Kellerman had been placed on administrative leave pending investigation. He's not happy, Westfield said. Claims this is a witch hunt, that you're fabricating evidence, that I'm helping you because of some personal agenda. What did Admiral Chambers say? She told him to shut up and lawyer up. Then she pulled 20 years of his personnel files and started cross-referencing them with incident reports. Westfield smiled grimly. Turns out there's a pattern. Every time Kellerman was assigned to a training unit, assault reports went up, and resolution rates went down. He's been covering for bad actors his entire career. How many? At least a dozen, maybe more. NCIS is pulling records from every base he served at. Maya absorbed this. The rot went deeper than she thought. Not just Voss, not just Rodriguez. Decades of culture built on the idea that toughness required brutality and questioning authority was weakness. It's going to get worse before it gets better, she said quietly. Probably, but it's going to get better. That's what matters. The night before the board review, Maya couldn't sleep again. She lay in darkness, running through her testimony in her mind, anticipating questions, preparing answers, trying to predict where defense attorneys would attack. At 0200, her phone buzzed. Text from Marcus Thorne. Commander, I need to talk to you. Before the board. Maya stared at the message. Thorne had been part of both attacks, part of Rodriguez's assault, part of hers. He'd stood by and watched violence happen, twice, but he'd also hesitated. And in Reflex Bay 2, his grip had been loose, his commitment incomplete. She typed back, "I'm listening." 3 minutes later, her phone rang. "Commander Brennan." Thorne's voice was quiet, strained. "I want to testify. Against Voss, against Kellerman, against all of it." Maya sat up carefully. "Why?" "Because I have a younger sister, Emily. She's in the Army, infantry officer. And yesterday she called me, excited, because she's being considered for Ranger School." His voice cracked slightly. "And all I could think was, what if she gets assigned to a unit like this? What if there's a Voss there? What if there's a Kellerman telling people to look away? What if she ends up like me?" Maya finished. "Yeah, and I realized I can't live with that. Can't look her in the eye knowing I was part of the problem." He paused. "I was there when they attacked Rodriguez. I didn't hit him, but I held the door, made sure no one interrupted. I told myself I was just following orders, just being loyal to my team. But that was bullshit. I was being a coward. Coming forward now takes courage. It's 20 months too late. Better late than never." Thorne exhaled. "I have records, communications between Kellerman and Voss, instructions on how to handle problem instructors, evidence of other incidents that got buried. I copied everything before Kellerman started deleting files." "When did he start deleting?" "Yesterday, as soon as Admiral Chambers put him on administrative leave. But I grabbed the backups first." Maya felt her pulse quicken. "Can you get those files to me?" "Already sent them to your secure email. Everything, unedited, with my statement attached." She grabbed her laptop, opened her email, found the files. 23 documents, communication logs, personnel records, incident reports marked classified. A pattern of systematic cover-up spanning 15 years. "Marcus, this is everything. It's what I should have given Rodriguez 20 months ago." His voice was heavy with regret. "I can't undo what happened, but maybe I can make sure it doesn't happen again. You're going to take heat for this. From Voss, from the old guard. They'll call you a traitor. Let them. My sister's worth more than their approval." Maya was quiet for a moment. "The board convenes at 900 tomorrow. You'll be called to testify. Be ready." "I've been ready since I watched you stand up in that bay with broken legs and take on 4 of us like it was nothing. You showed me what courage actually looks like, Commander. Time I found some of my own." The call ended. Maya sat in darkness, laptop glowing, files open before her. Everything she needed, everything Chambers needed, the systematic evidence of institutional rot that had poisoned SEAL training for more than a decade. Tomorrow, it all came out. Tomorrow, everything changed. The Joint Evaluation Chamber was built for judgment. Steel and glass walls. Long table at the front for the review board. Witness stand to the side. Gallery seating for observers. Recording equipment capturing every word, every expression, every moment for the permanent record. Maya arrived at 0845, 15 minutes early. She wore her service dress blues, decorations earned over 10 years displayed on her chest. Her braced legs were visible beneath the uniform trousers. She didn't hide them. We'd hide them. The chamber filled slowly. Board members took their positions. 7 officers, including Admiral Chambers at the center. Representatives from JAG, NCIS, and Senior SEAL Command. Legal advisors on both sides. A court reporter. At 0850, Garrett Voss entered with his attorney. He looked smaller somehow, less confident. His eyes flicked to Maya once, then away. Cole Merrick and Travis Strand entered separately, both with legal counsel, both avoiding eye contact. At 0855, Marcus Thorne entered. No attorney, just a folder of documents and an expression that said he'd already made peace with whatever came next. At 900 exactly, Admiral Chambers called the review to order. This board convenes to investigate allegations of assault, systematic cover-up, and abuse of authority within naval special warfare training programs. The primary incident under review occurred 7 nights ago at Naval Amphibious Base Coronado. Additional incidents dating 20 months will also be examined. She looked directly at Maya. Commander Brennan, you'll present your evidence first. Maya stood, walked to the front of the chamber, her braced legs clicking softly with each step, set her laptop on the display table, connected it to the main screens. Ma'am, members of the board, what I'm about to present is a documented pattern of violence, intimidation, and institutional cover-up that has compromised operational integrity and endangered personnel. She pulled up the first file. It begins with an assault on SEAL instructor Carlos Rodriguez 20 months ago. For the next 40 minutes, Maya walked the board through everything. The Rodriguez incident, the cover-up, the security footage showing Voss and Thorne present, Kellerman's orders to handle it quietly, Rodriguez's forced resignation, then her own experience, the sabotaged equipment, the notes from Marcus Thorne, the attack in the supply depot, audio and video evidence, medical records showing the extent of her injuries, the unauthorized training in Reflex Bay 3, the modifications to her braces, the development of an adapted fighting system, and finally, the setup in Reflex Bay 2, the confrontation. The combat footage from 3 angles showing 4 men attempting to assault an injured operator and being systematically neutralized. When she finished, the chamber was silent. Admiral Chambers spoke first. Commander, you conducted this investigation while injured, without official authorization, using yourself as bait for potential assault. Why? Because reporting through official channels would have resulted in the same outcome as Rodriguez, ma'am. It would have been buried, dismissed as personal conflict. The pattern would have continued. You don't have faith in the system. I have faith in evidence, ma'am. And I knew that if I documented everything, built an airtight case, the system would have to respond. One of the SEAL Command representatives spoke up. Commander, you deliberately antagonized Petty Officer Voss and his crew. You broke their training records. You outperformed them repeatedly. Isn't it possible they responded to legitimate professional criticism poorly, rather than systematic targeting? Maya turned to face him. Sir, breaking training records is the job of an instructor. Setting new standards is how we push candidates to excel. If Petty Officer Voss interpreted professional excellence as personal attack, that speaks to his unsuitability for service, not to any fault of mine. But you could have been more diplomatic. Diplomacy is important, but competence isn't negotiable, and neither is safety. Chambers intervened. Let's hear from the other witnesses. Carlos Rodriguez is standing by via secure video. The screens shifted. Rodriguez appeared, sitting in what looked like a home office. 42 years old, Hispanic features, muscular build gone slightly soft from civilian life. But his eyes were clear and hard. He testified for 20 minutes, detailed his attack, the cover-up, Kellerman's pressure to resign. The years of watching from outside, wondering if he'd made the right choice. I thought staying quiet was the only way to protect my career, he said. Turns out I didn't have a career worth protecting anymore, not if it meant letting the people who hurt me keep hurting others. Then came Marcus Thorne. He took the witness stand without hesitation, placed his folder of documents on the table, looked directly at the board. My name is Petty Officer Marcus Thorne. I participated in the assault on Carlos Rodriguez 20 months ago. I was present during the attack on Commander Brennan 7 nights ago. I witnessed both and did nothing to stop either. His voice was steady, resigned. I was following orders from Senior Chief Kellerman, orders that told us problem instructors needed to be handled internally, that official reports made the teams look weak, that loyalty meant protecting each other even when we were wrong. He pulled out the communications logs. These documents show Kellerman's direct involvement in covering up at least 9 separate incidents over 15 years. He instructed personnel to intimidate instructors who set high standards, to sabotage equipment, to create hostile environments for anyone who challenged the old way of doing things. One of the JAG representatives leaned forward. "Petty Officer Thorne, why are you testifying against your chain of command?" "Because my sister is about to enter Ranger School, and I realized I'd rather be called a traitor by Kellerman than look her in the eye knowing I protected the system that could hurt her." Chambers reviewed the documents on her tablet. Her expression grew darker with each page. "These communications are damning. Direct orders to harass and intimidate. Explicit instructions on how to avoid official reports." She looked up. "Where is Senior Chief Kellerman?" "In custody, ma'am," one of the NCIS representatives answered. "He attempted to flee the base last night, was apprehended at a civilian airport." "Attempted to flee," Chambers repeated. "Consciousness of guilt. Add obstruction and flight risk to the charges." The review continued for another 3 hours. Medical testimony from Dr. Patterson. Security footage analysis. Expert testimony on the modified braces and combat system Maya had developed. Defense attorneys tried to poke holes. Suggested Maya had fabricated evidence. Argued that Voss had just been conducting an authorized training exercise. Claimed Rodriguez was disgruntled and unreliable. But the evidence was overwhelming. Audio, video, medical records, communication logs, testimony from multiple sources. By 1500 hours, it was over. Admiral Chambers conferred briefly with the other board members. Then she returned to her position at the center of the table. "This board finds as follows." Her voice carried the weight of finality. "Petty Officer Garrett Voss is guilty of assault, conspiracy, and conduct unbecoming. He will be dishonorably discharged and face civilian criminal charges." Voss's face went white. "Petty Officer Cole Merrick and Petty Officer Travis Strand are guilty of assault and conspiracy. Dishonorable discharge." Chambers continued. "Senior Chief Brant Kellerman is guilty of systematic abuse of authority, conspiracy, obstruction of justice, and attempted flight. He will face court-martial and forfeiture of all retirement benefits." She looked at Marcus Thorne. "Petty Officer Thorne, your testimony and cooperation are noted. However, your participation in multiple assaults cannot be overlooked. You will be transferred to a different unit with a formal reprimand. Your cooperation today prevents discharge, but your record is permanently marked." Thorne nodded, accepted it. "Understood, ma'am." Finally, Chambers turned to Maya. "Commander Brennan, your investigation was unauthorized. Your methods were unorthodox. Your decision to use yourself as bait was dangerous and against medical orders." She paused. "It was also necessary. Without your documentation, this pattern would have continued. Without your courage, other operators would have been hurt." Chambers stood. The room stood with her. "You are hereby commended for exceptional conduct under adverse circumstances. Furthermore, I'm recommending you for a new position. Director of Operator Safety and Cultural Reform. You'll report directly to me. Your job will be to implement the Brennan Protocol across all SEAL training programs." Maya felt the words land. "Ma'am, I'm a field operator, not an administrator. You're an operator who understands that the most important battles aren't always fought on deployment. They're fought in training halls, in equipment depots, and chain of command decisions. We need someone who understands both sides." Chambers' expression softened slightly. "This is how you honor Captain Donovan, by making sure no one else dies because we prioritize culture over safety." Maya was quiet for a long moment. Then she straightened. "I accept the position, ma'am, on one condition, which is, I maintain field qualification. I still teach. I don't become just a policymaker. I stay in the training halls." Chambers smiled. "Agreed. Now go get those knees fixed. That's an order." The surgery took 6 hours. Pins in both knees, plates to stabilize the fractures. Dr. Patterson worked with orthopedic specialists from Naval Medical Center, San Diego. They rebuilt what Voss had broken, stronger than before. Recovery was 8 months. Physical therapy 5 days a week. Relearning to walk without braces. Rebuilding strength and flexibility. It was harder than any training Maya had ever endured, but she endured. 6 months after the board review, the Brennan Protocol was implemented across all Naval Special Warfare Training Commands. Mandatory independent investigation of all operator injuries. Anonymous reporting system with civilian oversight. Quarterly culture assessments. Zero tolerance for retaliation. 3 instructors from other bases came forward with their own stories. NCIS opened investigations at Camp Pendleton and Little Creek. 2 more senior enlisted personnel were court-martialed. Carlos Rodriguez was offered reinstatement. He declined but accepted a position as a civilian consultant on operator safety programs. Marcus Thorne served his time in his new unit with distinction. His sister completed Ranger School and was assigned to a unit with no history of hostile culture. She sent Maya a letter thanking her for making that possible. And at 600 on a Tuesday morning in early fall, Maya Brennan returned to the training fields at Coronado. No braces, no crutches, just boots on gravel and legs that had healed stronger than before. A new class of candidates stood at attention. 32 total, 4 women among them. They watched as Maya walked to the front of formation, posture straight, every step proof that broken didn't mean beaten. "Good morning," she said. "I'm Commander Brennan. I'm here to teach you mobility tactics, not how to run fast, how to move smart, how to use physics instead of force, how to survive when your body fails and your mind has to compensate." She gestured to her legs, scars visible below the hem of her shorts. 8 months ago, someone tried to end my career by breaking these. They thought destruction meant defeat. They were wrong. Because the most important lesson I can teach you isn't about physical strength, it's about mental resilience. One of the female candidates, Private Erin Calloway, raised her hand tentatively. "Question, Private? Ma'am, how did you come back from that? How did you keep going when everything was broken?" Maya looked at her, saw the nervousness, the doubt, the weight of being one of 4 women in a class of 32, knowing she'd be watched more closely, judged more harshly, expected to fail. "I kept going because quitting would have meant they were right, that I didn't belong, that women can't handle the pressure." Maya's voice was firm. "But more than that, I kept going because there were people coming after me, people like you, and you deserve to know that the system would protect you, not punish you for being excellent." Another candidate, a male private named Morrison, spoke up. "Commander, is it true you fought 4 men with broken legs?" "I defended myself against 4 attackers using adapted technique and superior tactical planning. The lesson isn't that I'm special. The lesson is that physics works, leverage works, timing works. When you understand the fundamentals, limitations become advantages." She walked along the formation line. "Today we're starting with sprint mechanics, not to see who's fastest, to see who's most efficient. I don't care if you break records. I care if you understand why certain stride lengths work better than others, why center of gravity matters, why economy of motion beats brute force every time." She stopped at the starting line of the endurance lane. "Everyone to the line. We're running 800 meters. I'll be timing stride count, not just final time. Questions?" No one spoke. "Good. On my mark." She raised her hand, paused, then dropped it. They ran. Maya watched from the sideline, clipboard in hand, counting strides, calculating efficiency, noting who fought the course and who flowed through it. This was her job now. Not just teaching them to run, teaching them to think. Private Calloway finished 4th. Not the fastest, but her technique was clean, efficient, no wasted motion. Maya nodded at her as she came off the track. "Well done, Private. Your stride efficiency is optimal. Keep that rhythm." "Thank you, ma'am." "Don't thank me yet. Tomorrow we're doing weighted obstacles. That's when physics really matters. The training day continued. Wall climbs, rope courses, technical demonstrations. Maya moved through it all with the confidence of someone who'd earned every scar, every lesson, every moment of authority. At 1700 hours, as the sun started its descent toward the Pacific, she dismissed the class. Watched them head toward the barracks, exhausted but determined. Commander Westfield approached from the admin building. "First day back. How does it feel?" "Right," Maya said simply. "It feels right. You could have taken a desk permanently. After everything you went through, no one would have questioned it." "That's exactly why I couldn't. Because taking the easy path would have meant they won." She looked at Westfield. "How's the reform implementation going at other bases?" "Little Creek is fully compliant. Camp Pendleton is getting there. Some resistance from Old Guard, but Admiral Chambers is handling it." He smiled. "Turns out when you fire a few senior chiefs and make examples of the bad actors, the rest fall in line pretty quickly." "Good." They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, the base around them settling into evening routine. Operators heading to mess halls, training equipment being secured, the ocean whispering against distant shores. "Carlos Rodriguez called me last week," Westfield said. "Wanted to know if you'd be willing to speak at a conference on military culture reform. Said you're the face of change now, whether you like it or not." Maya grimaced. "I don't like it." "I know, but you're good at it, better than most." He turned to face her. "You turned personal trauma into institutional change, Maya. You took the worst thing that happened to you and used it to protect thousands of operators who'll never know your name. That's not just courage, that's leadership." "I just did what needed doing." That's what all the best leaders say. Westfield left her alone on the training field. Maya stood there as the sun dropped lower, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. She pulled out her phone, opened her photos, found the picture of Captain Donovan's funeral. "I finished what you started," she said quietly. "Taught them what we learned. Made sure no one else dies because we cut corners or stayed silent." She paused. "I hope you'd be proud." The photo didn't answer. But in the silence, in the peace of a base finally beginning to heal, Maya felt something she hadn't felt in 8 months. Not closure. Closure was for things that ended. This was continuation. Legacy. The knowledge that Donovan's lessons lived on through every operator she'd trained, every policy she'd implemented, every moment she chose to stand instead of fall. She pocketed her phone, turned toward the barracks, walked across the gravel with steady steps, each one a promise that she'd keep teaching, keep fighting, keep pushing for the system that protected operators instead of punishing them. Behind her, the training field lay empty and quiet. Tomorrow it would fill again with candidates learning to move smart instead of hard. Learning that strength came from technique, not force. Learning that limitations could become advantages if you understood the physics. And at the front of that formation would stand Commander Maya Brennan. No longer broken, never beaten, just stronger for the breaking. Because Navy SEALs don't run from fights. They adapt, they endure, they overcome. And sometimes the most important fight isn't against an enemy across an ocean. It's against a culture that needs changing, a system that needs fixing, a tradition that needs ending. Maya had fought that fight, had bled for it, had broken for it, and she'd won. Not just for herself, for Rodriguez, for Thorne's sister, for Private Calloway and every operator who'd come after. The sun set completely, stars emerged overhead, the base settled into night watch, and Maya Brennan walked toward tomorrow, knowing that her legs had healed, but the work was never finished. Because culture didn't change overnight, it changed one operator at a time, one policy at a time, one moment of courage at a time, and she had plenty of moments left.